Hello, everyone. Gwen here. Just checking the quality on this because we don't really know. Something's been happening with screen time, so we're just gonna see how we're gonna get this resolved soon. Either way, um, welcome to another tea time, and we gotta talk about the variant of relationships. A lot of relationship today seem like a free for all. You know, it's like um, cheating on each other, lying to each other, deceiving one another seems to be the norm in relationships nowadays. And very often it becomes almost a rare occasion where you meet someone from the opposite sex or same sex, whoever you're dating at the point, what your preference is that a lot of it is not really based on true, authentic, open, and honest communication. Like a lot of relationships have broken up, a lot of people got divorced in the COVID period, but not necessarily because financial issues, and it didn't necessarily have to be because of not loving each other anymore, but a lot of people were just living their lives who weren't honest with their true authentic self. And I remember a colleague of mine, he's working IT, and I was working at another division at the time, but I left before COVID, and even he stated that, you know it's like people don't um, enjoy being at home with their spouse and their kids. That's how it came off as. Whereas I'm saying that, you know, yeah, they thought they were had to live their life a certain way that just didn't agree with who they really were or how they really wanted to live. A lot of people are streamlined into thinking that the way that society has set up for couples to be is the way that all couples want to be. And I've stated in a video earlier that, there are plenty of one parent households where they still have contact with the other parent, which can be successful. And don't let the statistics prove you any different, because those statistics, are being manipulated in order to fit a certain narrative. And that narrative doesn't always have to be negative. A lot of the stuff that statistics or certain studies show are practically say nothing about the other aspect that they're trying to contradict. That, for example, all one parent households, the child's going to end up being miserable or not doing well, which is of course not the case. And the same thing with relationships. Like, it all boils down to how well do you know yourself? How well are you able to, you know, be true about yourself? Be true about who you are. And you can't expect someone, and I'm talking to the younger generation on this one, at 18, 19, 20 years old, you have an idea that you know who you are. You have no clue who you are, because you're still absorbing everything. You're just figuring this world out. Believe me, when I was at that stage of life, I thought I had it all figured out. That was all going to be very simple. That everything I was going to do was just going to just rapidly, magically appear. And it turns out that, I was wrong on a lot of things. Like, I was also right about a lot of things, but I was wrong on a lot of issues as well. And one of them being that the type of love that I wanted in the beginning is the same way I look at love now. Having not only seen other people's experiences when it comes to those type of relationships, but also having been in two, eye-opening yet toxic relationships myself, I figured, like, yo, this way of love that is being portrayed, a lot of people aren't with the person they want to be with. A lot of people are with the person they are with because of options, or there's not really love attached to it. All right. I've been in a relationship too where I thought, this girl genuinely was in love with me, whether as a matter of fact, I was a business transaction. And as long as she saw profit in me, when I was getting all the love, and as soon as that went down a little bit, that's when I became a burden. That's when I became all of those things that a lot of people would make you out to be when you're a free spirited person. But honestly, um, and in relationships too, I've been with a lot of women coming my way saying they really love me when really they were trying to use me to get something out of me. And this is for all African descendant people as well. I spoke a lot on intercultural relationships, and to a lot of you know African descendants, and this is really for anyone that wants to engage not just an intercultural relationship, but like any relationship at all. Like, know yourself, love yourself, and knowing yourself, especially if you have been through some major traumas or are still going through some major traumas, that's not going to happen overnight. Sometimes it just gets down to having to figure out how to your own authentic way to surpass them. And believe me, I've dived deeper than most, and this is not something I would. The reason I'm putting it out there is, I hope no one has to dive as deep as I had to get to where they are, because life isn't about suffering. Sure, you're never free from suffering, but never to the extent that you have to go as far or as deep as some other people go. Because, man, I feel so blessed because a lot of people didn't make it out. All right. And after a lot of hurdles, I'm still going through some with my legs, but we're here and passing down this knowledge. But a lot of people enter in relationships out of fear of being alone, out of fear of financial issues, or sometimes it's just status. And these are the things that never really concerned me to begin with. But there was a lot of love lacking in my life, and because of lack of love in my environment, I was seeking it elsewhere. Like, the amount of prostitutes I've been with, the amount of unhealthy relationships I engaged, and especially after my first relationship failed, because I had all these ideas and expectations of what love should have been like, especially growing up around a lot of women where I heard those women issues, and unlike most men that I did take them into account. But coming from a place where there was lacking of love, and there was lacking of boundaries, and not really being thought properly of how to own yourself or how to respect yourself and your boundaries and set those up. And it really got to a point of where, yeah, I had to figure that out on my own, and as dark as that path was, I'm glad I did it. But coming back to relationships in that sense, especially during the times of COVID, a lot of people aren't with the people they're with because of the reasons they claim to. And really figure out, you really got to figure out your own way how to get through these relationships, because a lot of it is also psychological manipulation. And again, for my African descendants out there, like, or anyone who is non-European or is non-European descendant, like, if you engage in an intercultural relationship, like, really figure out, like, does she want you for you, or does she want you for what they can get out of you? And I'm speaking for men right now, but this could easily apply roles reverse. You know, women being in intercultural relationships with men, because I've seen that same thing happen up close, where they weren't with the woman they were with because they genuinely love them or genuinely care for them. Really, and I'm going to be blunt in saying this, like a lot of them just want an exotic pet. A lot of them just want an exotic pet. And after realizing that truth, and especially during my last relationship, which was all sorts of weird, but that's a whole other podcast altogether. But yeah, man, it really opened my eyes to my self worth, because we tend to want to give everything to our spouse and have nothing left over for ourselves. Like that's the way we're conditioned into thinking. And really it goes like wait, like I'm not sacrificing, I'm not compromising for anyone anymore, because really, and this is personal experience, like don't apply this to your situation if it doesn't, but all of my problems really came from compromising. And a lot of it stemmed compromising my self-worth in order to meet another person's, you know, wants and needs of a relationship. And you don't know this in the beginning, like especially when you've never had that, but want that and want to give that because you want to have it reciprocated. But no, in my last relationship, like she didn't want an equal partner. Like if you want a healthy relationship, you need an equal partner. You know, and the money and all that, you know, the honestly, you can want that, but is that what's gonna last? Like everyone's looking to the term, like I've said this before, like high value man, high value woman, but what are you placing that value on? Because if you're placing that value on looks, that's gonna disappear. I don't care how much plastic surgery you put on yourself or on your partner, you know. And even that I find strange. Like, who would? And to be honest, I'd been even asked that, and I found it strange that I found it strange that I was asked that question, because the last relationship I was in, she was like, yeah, what do you think of me, ever enlarging my breasts? I was like, if you want to do that for you, you do that for you, but don't think you ever had to do that for me, because I honestly don't give a shit. If you want to do things for you, do things for you, but that also shows like her lack of self-worth, or thinking she would have to change her ways for someone else. And that's where we get into the term, um, you know, power dynamic. Like if I don't need a partner that wants to overpower me, or me wanting to overpower her. I mean, that's bullshit. If you're really in an equal and healthy partnership, relationship, marriage, whatever, there should be no power dynamic. There should just be you, me, us, and fuck the rest. And even in the last relationship, like the one before the one I explained, was like, yeah, my parents said this and my parents say this. It's like, look, I'm not saying I don't value what your parents have to contribute, but I'm not in a relationship with your parents. I'm in a relationship with you. I want to know what you think. I want to know how you see things. I want to communicate with you. I don't want to communicate vicariously, use you as a vessel, right, an energetic vessel, in order to communicate with your parents. I'm in a communicative relationship with you, or at least that's what we would have believe. But a lot of things in Western modern relationships, um, I've met a couple of people that are in relationships right now, all right, getting married, getting getting children, and don't get me wrong, bless up. I love the fact that they're doing that, but I can already see like they're not gonna last because it's not based on equality. It's not based on partnership. It's based usually out of fear. Fear and transactions. That's what most Western relationships are based upon, because everyone who portrays, and I've seen this too, many people who portray them to be a happy couple, and really they're just looking for anything on the side, really. And when I was in my most vulnerable moments, like I've even been approached by women like that. So the whole August Alsteen, Jada Pinkett Smith, like, you know, I get August Alsteen's point. Because we have the mistake in society that only male are predators. Only men are predators. All right? Women can be just as, if not even more predatory than men are. And I'm definitely not saying all women are like that. And I'm not saying that, you know, like, I've seen the red flags. So I'm not here calling out Jada Pinkett Smith or August Alstina, because honestly, I get it. And, you know, I'm not in the room with them, so I can't say what exactly happened. But just in the way the dynamic of that went, and especially the conversations like in between, like listening to not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it. Yeah, man, those red flags, we should have seen them coming. But when you're in a vulnerable spot, especially being non-European descendant, like, people, if you don't know your own self-worth, there are people swooping right in, because some predators, they just smell. All right, they just smell a wounded deer. And we oftentimes mistake that for just being men. Women are equally as predatory. Like the whole Harvey Weinstein thing, that same woman that accused Harvey Weinstein, that got the whole thing started, she later on was indicted for molesting a young boy when he was 17. But no one ever heard, no one gave it the lick of thought. Why? Because we have that old sentiment in our idea that only males are the ones capable of predatory behavior. I've even had that with some female family members. I'm not going to mention any names, but I've seen some of there when I'm like, oh man, those marriages, yikes. A facade. And especially during COVID, when being really stuck with one another for as long as most people have been, I understand that, you know, COVID brought out a lot of truth about a lot of things that we have kept hidden for a very long time. And this goes into people making up a facade. And the way most Western relationships have been inclined to be are just a facade. How many times do you hear about marriages where they have, you know, I'm thinking about Affleck and the whole babysitter situation. Like, yeah, babysitters, you know, and a lot babysitters, like having women on the side, having men on the side, and but um, you can't really fully blame it on the people, because a lot of stuff in music and other forms of idea, you know, promote it. Like me, for example, I love dancehall music, but a lot of the stuff that's in there is about cheating on one another. A lot of rap, even though I love it, a lot of music stems around taking somebody else's partner. And there'll be a lot more podcasts about this issue as well, in the dynamic of you know, relationships, because man, people are out there, you know, like I said, people think life is a game, but life is not a video game where you can just harm anyone and everyone, just use and abuse everyone all around you, and thinking that is not somehow not gonna come around and bite you in the ass. Because honestly, it will. And a lot of the reasons why I personally, you know, held off on dating for a long time and held off of, you know, remotely even interacting with the opposite sex, because I had to figure myself out. Because I know if I went in there blind, there's just a jungle of hell out there in misery. And for all the men thinking that I'm being a bitch right now or being a pussy for that, it's like, you gonna learn one way or the other. Like, one of my friends think it's like, hey, everything is karma, brother. And for women out there too, thinking like, hey, don't get me wrong, I do believe women have been sexually repressed, all right, and oppressed for a very long time, according to Western societies. But honestly, don't use that thinking you can do whatever to men either, because I've met women like you. If you're one of those women, I've met women like you, and trust me, that karma is going to reach you one way or the other. It may not be tomorrow, it may not be 10 years from now, it may not even be 30 years from now, but one day it's going to hit you. And the consequences will be severe. Because people think as sexual liberation is you're only spreading disease. No. You're spreading hurtful and bad energy around just as much. And to think that, you know, you can't hurt men because we somehow have no feelings. We do. And a lot of men also stay in those type of relationships because they don't know no better themselves either. It's not, I don't even think it's lack of self-respect. I think it's just lack of self-knowledge. It's just knowing no boundaries. And even like Dan Bilzerian said, like having very few to no options. So you just do it whatever. And when it comes to the dynamic of relationships, just be careful out there. And make sure you know yourself before you get to know someone else. Because, man, a lot of red flags out there. And sometimes you can sense that energetically. If you've been lied and deceived to as much as I have been in the past, like, wow. Yeah. You sniff that stink out really quickly. Really quickly. So and again, this is not to really not to bash anyone, but to tell you the truth and to give another perspective on that. Because the dynamic of Western relationships is just beyond fucked up. And I applaud women who say, you know what, I'd rather be by myself, you know, or men too, you know, being a single parent than to have someone in their life that they don't really like or they don't really connect to. Because honestly, you can't live a facade forever. The truth will eventually show its light. And that's with relationships, that's with your authentic personality. Because honestly, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your frequency. You're responsible for your inner temple. All right, your body should be seen as a temple. All right, you shouldn't just let anyone have access to your temple without your say so. And a lot of people, and this is not just European descendant too, but a lot of people are copying. Other people are copying that as well. People thinking just because they don't have no boundaries, that they can just cross your boundaries without any say so. And I'm not going to lie, I've had my boundaries up for a long time. I'm a completely different person, not necessarily because my self-worth, not because of self-worth, but self-knowledge. Right? Knowledge of who you are, what's your nature, what I can and cannot allow. And be strong in that, man. Just be strong in that. Because otherwise, anyone can just roll you like a train. And that's for a lot of it's for a lot of young guys out there too, you know. Like, not everyone's wired the same, I get it. But There's a lot of good guys out there who are just like intimidated to be with a woman because they know if they let the wrong one in, could damage them for a long time. And the amount of times, the last relationship, honestly, bro, I know what it's like to have my mind messed with. I know what it's like to have my physical boundaries violated. But a woman who tries to, or this is not just a woman, just any partner who tries to break your spirit so they can bend you to their will by any and all means necessary, bruh, that's a whole other level right there. You really, really gotta be careful. This is for man and woman, because if you enter a relationship, you're entering someone else's temple. Just be sure. Be sure of who you are. Be sure that that person you're with is the person you want to be with for the rest of your life, because if not, if you want to be free, this goes for women too. Just be honest. I ain't looking for a relationship. Hey, yo, we cool. But there's a lot of dishonest people out there, and really all you're doing by thinking you're deceiving them, you're really deceiving you. And for the other party, if they can't be honest with you, if they can't be honest with themselves, don't expect them to be honest with you. All right? That's all I have for you right now. Stay tuned for the next one. All right?